Breaking news from Colombia this morning, that plane crash that happened around midnight local time, just before 6 a.m. UK time. Colombian police confirming that there were 5 survivors from that plane wreckage, but the remaining passengers and crew, 76 others, have been killed. An emergency was declared when that plane came down. Rescue efforts had to be suspended because of heavy rain and thunderstorms in the area. But Colombian police have just confirmed the scale of what is a complete tragedy this morning. 76 people killed, 5 survivors. These are the first pictures that are emerging from that crash site. The plane on its way to Mendellin airport in Colombia. It came down in a mountainous area near the airport, the mayor confirmed, and the rescue operation got underway in difficult circumstances, but only 5 survivors, 76 dead. That is the latest from Colombian police. Among the survivors, 3 members of the football team that were on board, a Brazilian football team from Syria. And Jackie, we've been learning so much about them this morning. They were in a good position in what is the Premier League in Brazil and on this fairy tale journey.
Yeah, absolutely. An unfashionable team that have somehow built themselves up to be in a very good position and get themselves into the amazing position of being in this international cup final, the second most important cup competition in South America, and they had managed to get to the final, and we saw scenes of them celebrating having got through to that final just a couple of weeks ago, and now it's all been snuffed out. What was amazing about them was that they were a very young club, only formed in 1973 from Santa Catarina, a beautiful state, managed to get themselves into the Premier League in 2014 to Serie A, and were 9th in that Premier League, and have got themselves into this cup final. And you know, they're so small, they weren't actually going to play the second leg of their final, which was meant to be played in Brazil. They weren't going to play it in Chapecoense in their hometown. They were going to play it in Curitiba in a much larger stadium, because their football stadium was just too small to play such an international fixture. But as you were hearing earlier, they were on the plane on their way to Colombia to play in Medellin, to play Atlético Nacional from Colombia in the first leg of this final when the plane went down. You can't imagine what they're going through, and obviously very early in Brazil, waking up to this news this morning, they are going to be absolutely devastated, because although it was a kind of unfashionable team, it was a team that everybody enjoyed hearing about, because it was such a great story, a rags to riches, a Cinderella type story, with all of these guys you can see here, quite a lot of older footballers, journeyman footballers, and some very young footballers as well. But nobody's vastly paid in that football team. They're just collectively have done great things, and it's just one of those lovely stories that journalists love to report on. And sadly, lots of journalists reported to be on that plane as well, going to follow their story. Yeah, and on the club's official Facebook site, just before the team got on that flight, they posted a picture of them at the airport, building up to what would presumably be a big part of the history for their club, making it to this international final. These are the members of the team getting ready to get on that flight. As Jackie was saying, only 3 members of that team survived the crash. We have been hearing from the mayor of Medellin, who's been speaking about the crash. Here's what he had to say.
It's a regrettable situation. I can confirm that this is the plane where the players were, and we're following the events. And we have the necessary team coming from Medellin, ambulances, medical staff. And the important thing here is to understand that there are survivors, and the main thing here is to save lives. And we're very sad and very solidary with their friends and family and their country. And we're doing all we can in this very regrettable and sad situation.
A little earlier on, I spoke to Tim Vickery, who is an expert on Brazilian football. He's based in Rio, and he provided some more details on the plane's crash site. No official cause for the crash yet, but this is what he had to say a short time ago.
It seems that the plane split into 3 parts on landing. The most pessimistic thing that I've heard, it's very difficult conditions for the rescue operation. driving rain. It's quite cold up there as well. The most pessimistic news that I've seen is 75 deaths and just 6 survivors. Hopefully that turns out to be too pessimistic. But whatever happens, this is a tragedy which has killed off a team that a nation has taken to its heart.
It is indeed a tragic ending. 76 people on board that flight, only 5 survivors, 3 of them from Chapecoense football team. Jackie, you've got a little bit of information about the 3 players who made it.
Yeah, we believe the 3 players who've survived are Alan Rochelle, who's a defender who was on loan from another club, from Internacional. He was 27. Danilo, who's a goalkeeper, he's 31. And Jackson Fullman, who's also a goalkeeper, who is just 24. They are the 3 we believe that have survived this crash.
OK, we'll have more on that breaking news throughout the programme here on Sunrise.